Hey guys, Martin here. Another We're Still Here for this week. Not late this time, unless I forget to upload this one, which would be not a disaster, but it would be stupid of me, and it's not outside the realm of possibility. But the important thing is I remembered, and it wasn't because I was dwelling on it for too long. Last week, in case you didn't watch it, I was like I wasn't thinking about I wasn't thinking about We're Still Here, and I also just wasn't thinking about depression in general. And I like to think of that as a good thing. I like to consider it a good thing that I wasn't dwelling on my negative feelings or the fact that I was dealing with this cloud that was hanging over me. Just because if I'm able to do that without thinking about it, then that means I'm progressing. It means I'm improving, and I choose to see that as a good thing. It is a good thing, if you're able to go a week without thinking about that, then that's huge. That's a big deal. That's a big step. And it's one I didn't even realize I was taking. And I even though it resulted in me messing up and not posting a video until later in the day at the very last minute, which I actually ended up liking that one. I thought that was one of my more thoughtful ones. Even if it was brief, I thought it was an important thing to say. And in case you missed it, the gist of it was, I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it's a message that bears repeating. It was the fact that sometimes I feel like I'm not healing because I'm not on everybody else's level, socially or emotionally. But I haven't. Oh, hang on, the dog's barking at somebody. Sorry about that. I don't know if you could hear that, but the dog was trying to play with one of the cats, and the cat was not having any of it. So, bit of drama going on just now, but it's dealt with now. The dog's been separated. But the gist of the message I was trying to give, certainly one I was successful in giving last week, I think, is that I've never been at that level. I've never been, socially comfortable around large groups of people, or even sometimes small groups of people. I've never been at that level. I've never been 100% good at that sort of thing. So when I look at myself after I've been trying to recover from depression, and I realize that I'm not at that level, that's not because I'm not recovering. It's because that's just not who I am. That's not. When you roll this is a nerdy reference, but when you roll stats for a character in like a tabletop game, and those are your base stats, and some of those will change when you gain experience, but that's where you are. That's your base level. Not everybody has got very high scores, but that doesn't mean that they don't have something to contribute. And right now, I believe that I didn't get very high scores when I originally rolled my personality as a real person. So where I'm at right now isn't necessarily, I'm not 100% peak, condition, in physically, emotionally, any of those ways. But for a lot of my life, I haven't been. And it's not been because I'm depressed. It's just because I'm not the best example of a human being. And I don't mean that like I'm a crappy person. I just mean that, I'm not the ideal. And that's okay. It's okay to not be ideal. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not be the best, in my opinion. It's good to strive to be the best, but you don't have to be the best. That's my opinion. What I wanted to talk about this week was just more of an update on where I'm at than, like a message or a lesson or anything. And I know a lot of these don't end up being lessons or, I guess when I conceived this idea, it was my way of trying to tell you guys how I handle depression, and hopefully you'd be able to learn something from my experiences. But that's not always going to be the case, and especially with this one, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the case. You're not going to necessarily realize, oh, I've been doing it this way, I should be doing it this way. I screw things up all the time, and this particular thing isn't an example of me screwing up, but it's an example of me not screwing up, which isn't really success, but it's good. It's good, but I like watching wrestling with friends. I like watching movies with friends. I like playing video games with friends. I like engaging in the activities that I really enjoy with friends. Now, there are times when I don't want to do that, and it's not always because, I'm a loner, or I crave solitude, or I'm a hermit, or I'm, insular, or an introvert. Sometimes it's just because I just want to focus. Sometimes it's just because I want to, like, if I'm playing a really long video game with a really involved story, I don't want to have to necessarily rely on other people's schedules to be able to play it with them. And that's okay, in my opinion. I think it's okay to, it is okay to take time to do the things you want to do by yourself if you really want to just get through them, and if you want to commit to finishing them and getting the most out of that experience by yourself. Those things will still be there when your friends want to play them or watch them or anything like that. But with something like wrestling, and I know wrestling isn't for everybody, but with something like that, there are certain events. In fact, every week there is a live wrestling event happening somewhere. At least 1, 2, 3 sometimes. But there are these live events, and a lot of the time, I think it's more fun to watch them with friends. And I used to watch all of the WWE pay-per-views with a larger group of people. I used to go to my good friend Laura and Shannon's place, and we would hang out with, I think, like sometimes 5, 6 people, as well as me, and watch the shows, and we'd get loud and crazy, and we'd yell positive or negative things at the TV, and it would be a big get together. And since really sort of dealing with the worst of my depression, I've been less inclined to it's not that I don't want to go and hang out with them, it's just that I don't enjoy those kinds of activities with those kinds of that size of a group as much as I used to. And I think this is one of the things where depression has affected that. That is something that I do enjoy doing. That is something that I would like to do, but I don't think I'm capable of doing yet. That's not a thing where I'm like, oh, I don't enjoy doing that because I never enjoyed doing that. That's something that I used to enjoy, but then because of depression and anxiety, I just can't enjoy them the same way anymore. In fact, it's terrifying to me to think about. It's really concerning and worrying, and I freak out. I freak myself out just thinking about doing it. But recently, I've been trying really hard to make an effort to at least try to watch these things with other people, not necessarily large groups of people, but with other people. I've invited 1 or 2 people around to our place to watch it, and recently I've been going and watching the WWE events with my friend Steve, and that's been easier for me. That's been much more. That's been something I can handle. Reducing it to just 1 or 2 people has made it an obstacle, not even an obstacle. It's made it a challenge that I can easily take on, that I can handle, despite the fact that my brain sometimes tells me otherwise. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I went to see WWE Fastlane at Steve's yesterday. I did go, and we hung out, and the pay-per-view wasn't great. If you've followed me on social media, you'll know that my feelings weren't exactly positive, but it was good to be there with my friend. It was good to be sitting and watching it with a friend. Before I went, earlier in the day, and the day before, my brain was telling me I didn't want to go. And it was difficult to fight that. It was really difficult to fight the feeling that my brain was telling me, and I know it's not all of my brain. It's the part of my brain that lies to me. It's the depression. It's the liar, it's the part of me that doesn't want me to be me anymore and doesn't want me to have a life or friends. And that part was telling me, oh, they don't really want to hang out with you. You don't really want to hang out with them. You're just lying to yourself. You're just kidding yourself that you can be normal again. And it tried really hard to tell me not to go, to the point that I kept coming up with reasons not to go, and I would have to fight. I would have to argue with myself for long lengths of time in my head to remind myself that no, this isn't really you speaking. This isn't really your heart. This isn't really your head. This is something that is coming from a very dark place within you that isn't really you. It is something that has taken residence within you, and it doesn't belong here, and it's trying to take over, and I don't want it to, and I think as well as you've been doing, Martin, as well as you've been doing, if you were to listen to it this time, it would be a huge step back. And it was really difficult. It was really difficult for me to not just ignore what it was saying, but to deny it and to reason with it. Well, not even reason with it, reason with myself and give myself the justification that I should go be with my friend. And that's really pathetic that I had to argue with myself about that and that I had to convince myself that I deserved to be with my friend for a few hours. But I did. I was able to go, and I mean, it was worth it just because, that voice shut the hell up afterwards, and I had a good time. I'm getting kind of emotional just because it's difficult to talk about the fact that I can't do these simple things without fighting for it. And it's really annoying that the really basic parts of my life have become this obstacle course of emotions and crap, But I was able to get through it yesterday, and I was able to hang out with my friend. So that's a victory. And I want you to know that if you ever find yourself in a similar position, I'm really low down on the screen, and I apologize, I feel like I'm doing this to you. But if you ever find yourself in a position where you have to fight for even the most basic right of like friendship or fun, and I'm sorry that you're in that position, but it's worth fighting for. Because even if it's not the biggest victory, even if it's not like a significant thing to anybody else, it's significant to you, and that's what matters in that scenario. And friendship is really important. And I haven't made friends in a long time, and I've made a friend, and I'm getting a phone call. So I'll wrap things up. But I just wanted you to know that I had an alright day yesterday, because I fought for that. So cheers. I'm going to answer this phone, and I'll get back to you next week, okay? Take care.